Hello, and welcome to the training video for our new public-facing Housing Choice Voucher Programmatic Dashboard. When you first come to the Housing Choice Voucher Dashboard, you're going to go to the landing page, which has a lot of important pieces of information. Specifically, it's going to tell you what type of information is housed within our Housing Choice Voucher Dashboard that's now publicly available, as well as tell you where the data is sourced from, which includes our HUD administrative systems, including HUD CAPS, the Voucher Management System, and PIC. And it also tells you the vintage of the data. So how current is the data that you're seeing within the Housing Choice Voucher Dashboard? As of this training video, the data is current as of November 2019. It also includes the important caveat that this report does not include our 39 moving to work or MTW public housing authorities. That is something that may be included in a future release, but is currently not included within the Housing Choice Voucher Dashboard. Now, once you've been on the landing page, you want to know how to navigate throughout the rest of the report. In order to navigate between the different tabs, you're going to use the arrows at the bottom of the page to be able to navigate to each of the subsequent pages. So let's go to the next page. So this page shows the Housing Choice Voucher Summary page, which has information around our budget, our leasing, as well as our budget and unit utilization since 2014. Now, when you first land on these summary pages and all of the requisite report pages within the public-facing Housing Choice Voucher Dashboard, it will give you a national level viewpoint. Now, if you want to get into a specific state level viewpoint, you can simply use the state drop-down feature here. And I'll get into that in just a second. But first, I'm going to go over what is on this page. So we have the budget overview, which includes our year-to-date HAP expenditures, or our housing assistance payment expenditures, in comparison to our year-to-date budget authority. This gives you a burn rate of how fast we're spending compared to the amount of money we have nationally for the program. We also provide a year-to-date budget utilization number, which shows our year-to-date spending as a percentage of budget authority, which as of November 2019 was 98.73%. We also provide the total reserves that we have in the program as of the last day of the previous calendar year. So at this point, we have total reserves as of 12/31/2018, and we will soon have our 12/31/2019 numbers coming forward. We also have on the right-hand side of the screen a leasing overview, which gives our current units under ACC, current units under contract, which is over 2.2 million as of this current juncture, our current reported leasing, our year-to-date leasing percentages. So this shows what percentage of our units we're actually leasing at any given point for our year-to-date numbers, our average per unit cost for the program, as well as a number of estimated units with leasing potential for our forward-looking 2020 estimates. And then finally, here on the right-hand side of the screen, you're going to see our budget and unit utilization chart, which shows how these trends have been going for the last 5 years. So you can see both budget utilization and our leasing utilization side by side and see how those trends have changed over the 5 years of the last 5 years of the program. Now, these are all the national level numbers. Now, if you'd like to drill into a specific state, such as Arizona, you could then select the state from the drop-down menu, and you will be able to instantaneously see how the data changes and interacts to show you only that state level information rather than the national level vantage point. Once you've selected a state, that information, that selection, will stay with you throughout all of the respective pages. So if you'd like to go back to the national level viewpoint, you're going to have to pick to clear your filters. That will bring you back to that national level vantage point. And so then you can see this information at the national view going forward for the subsequent pages. Now, going on to the next page of our dashboard, we're looking more in depth at budget and reserves. So again, this shows information around budget and reserves at the national viewpoint as of November 2019. And this information will continue to get updated in the public forum going forward. So on the first piece that you're going to see here is you're going to see the total 2019 budget authority for the Housing Choice Voucher Program. And mind you, this does not include our MTW PHAs. So you're going to see that that's over $16.7 billion. And then you can see that reserves amount that we have within the HUD program for 12/31/18. And then how much of that, of the budget authority, is in reserves currently. And that amount is 6.94%. This chart here then brings up which are the public housing authorities that are holding the most amount of reserves. And you can see the top 20 PHAs in the nation for the reserves amounts. You can also use this button here to see it by percentage of reserves rather than total amount of reserves. So total amount or percentage of reserves. One thing that you want to understand when you're looking at this chart is that it is totally normal and industry standard to have reserves on hand. We expect to have at least a month or so of reserves to have to ensure the operations of these PHAs can continue if the department is unable to meet its monthly obligations. And as stated in this disclaimer right here, the industry standard recommends that a PHA maintain a minimum reserves balance of 4% for PHAs with over 500 units, 6% for PHAs with 250 to 499 units, and 12% for PHAs with under 250 units. So you can see that it is very natural to have a reserves balance in your public housing authority, but whether or not that amount of money is the amount that they truly should have, that's where you can examine this here. But they should have a reserves balance in general. The other thing that you should be able to see here is that you can see how their housing assistance payments are compared to the budget authority since 2014. So this shows you how the actual amount of payments has compared to the BA on a month-to-month basis over the last 5 years. You can also see the budget utilization year over year at the national level. Now, all of this information, again, is from the national viewpoint, but if you'd like to go into a specific state, such as Colorado in this instance, you can simply use the state drop-down selector, pick Colorado, and see how that information changes. You're now going to see the top 20 PHAs based on HUD-held reserves here for the state of Colorado. How much is their budget authority? How much is their total level of reserves, and what it's looked like for their budget utilization and how HAP expenditures versus budget authority year over year. Again, so I'm going to clear the filters here and go on to the next page. So the next part of our Housing Choice Voucher dashboard is a leasing information. So this shows your unit leasing percentages or leasing utilization by month, year over year, and see it over the last 5 years. And so you can see how those trends look. You can also see the monthly number of vouchers on the street. So those are vouchers that are looking for folks to be able to lease them up on the street over the last 5 years. And you can see that there's definitely a cyclicality to that specific information. And then we also, on this right-hand side of the screen, show an average per unit cost and what that trend has looked like over the last 5 years. What you'll notice here is we definitely have seen, at least in the national viewpoint, an increase in the per unit cost over the last 5 years, and a pretty substantial increase, I might add. And then here at the top of the screen, you're going to see your total reported current leasing, what your 12-month attrition rate looks like as of June, and then how many vouchers are actually ported into the jurisdiction and ported out of that jurisdiction. Now, again, all of this is at the national viewpoint, and if you'd like to look at your information for a specific state, you can then examine that. I'm going to pick California now. and you're going to be able to see how that information changes. What's interesting is that in this top chart here, we still have the national viewpoint here in black, but you can actually see it compared to the state leasing numbers. And that way you can see how these two trends look like side by side. So you can see that there's been some fluctuations over time for the national leasing utilization, but there's definitely been a downward trend in leasing for the state of California. And you can see that all of the other numbers have adjusted as well to be able to reflect the situation that is in the state of California. So I'm going to clear this now, and we're going to go on to the next page. So this next page focuses on per unit costs within the Housing Choice Voucher Program. So again, when we first land on this page, we're looking at the national viewpoint, and we look at who are the top 10 PHAs with the highest increases in per unit cost, or PUC, over the last 5 years, as well as who are the top 10 PHAs with the largest reductions in PUC over the last 5 years. We can also see what is the average per unit cost as of the most current month, and what that average per unit cost has looked like over the last 5 years, as well as what is the average per unit cost for each year over these last 5 years. So this information gives you quite a bit of a picture about how per unit costs have been trending over the last several years, as well as who are the folks who are having the most intense increases and reductions in their per unit costs at a national level. Now, if you want to see it for your specific state, you'd again use this filtering drop down. Maybe we'll select Florida, and we'll see how their per unit cost looks for the state of Florida and which PHAs have seen those high increases in per unit cost over 5 years or large reductions in per unit cost over 5 years. And mind you, all of this information is always noted when it's current as of in these little red boxes here. So this data, as we talked about earlier, is as of November 2019. And so as we get updates to the data, this information here in the red box will update you as to what is the vintage of that data. Now finally, I'm going to clear this filter, and we're going to go to the last major report page for the Housing Choice Voucher public-facing dashboard. This one is really interesting because it talks about all of our special purpose vouchers. So we have our regular Housing Choice Voucher program, and then we have special purpose vouchers, which have very specific focused populations that they look at. So again, this gives information as of the current vintage of the data, which is November 2019. And then it also provides you information on each of the 4 special purpose voucher programs. So at the top left of the screen, you're going to see the mainstream program, which gives you a sense of which PHAs have that program, what state they're in, how many total effective awards do they have, how many have actually been leased within that specific PHA, and what their leasing utilizations are for that program. We have that information for our mainstream program, which helps some of our disabled populations, as well as our non-elderly disabled program, or NEDS program. Again, this information is all provided by PHA, state, total award, total leased, and our utilization. On our right-hand side of the screen, we have our Family Unification Program, Special Purpose Vouchers, with, again, our PHA name, state, total effective award, total leased, and our leasing utilization for each of the specific PHAs. And then finally, last but not least, in our right-hand side of the screen at the bottom is our VASH program, or our Veteran Supportive Housing Voucher Program. This program has had a lot of focus in recent years with our veteran population, and provides you a sense of which PHAs have this program, what states they're located in, what their total effective awards are, how many have been leased, and their utilization. Now, mind you, all of the information in this entire dashboard is not including our MTW PHAs, so that's just something to keep in mind. And it shows the national level viewpoint. Now, if you wanted to look at this by a specific state, maybe say Arkansas, and see which of those PHAs within that state actually have special purpose voucher programs, you can easily use that drop-down menu, select the state you're interested in, and see how the information on the charts change to show that there's only a select number of PHAs within the state of Arkansas that actually have these special purpose voucher programs. So that's a very interesting point and be able to look at. Now, one thing to note is if you don't know a lot about each of these given programs, the mainstream program, NEDS, FUP, or VASH programs, we have a very in-depth data dictionary and user guide for this entire training, as well as for the Housing Choice Voucher public-facing dashboard that is located in the website that you launched to this dashboard from. So I definitely encourage you to go and read that data dictionary. It gives you a lot of information on how we calculate these different utilization rates, how we get the information around budget authority, reserves, leasing potential, what are these different specific special purpose voucher programs, and has a lot of really good information. So please read that data dictionary. I think it's a really good companion piece to this video to explain to you how to interpret the data in our HCV public-facing dashboard. Now, to close this out, I'm just going to go to the last page, which is really another landing page for the HCV public-facing dashboard. This provides some access to our two-year tool and other HCV utilization tools that perform projections for the Public Housing Authority. So you can use this link here if you'd like to go use the two-year tool or any of these other utilization tools, as well as let you know that if you have any technical issues or suggestions for improvement for the HCV public-facing dashboard, please email those to hcvdashboard@hud.gov. We definitely would love to hear how we could further implement improvements to this dashboard and include information that is of interest to our public. So I'm going to sign off here and hope that this training video has been helpful for you. Again, I encourage you to watch this video as many times as necessary to understand how to utilize this dashboard, as well as use the data dictionary that we have online in our HCV website to be able to understand what is meant by each of the different calculations in this dashboard, what our industry standards are, what our special purpose voucher programs are, and what the populations are that they serve, as well as answer any other questions that you might have. So we're going to sign off here, and I hope this training video has been helpful. Thank you for joining me today.